The convertible division. True or false?
The convertible division.
Yep.
So what is this, like a bunch of soccer moms racing Volkswagen Beetles with a drop top?
No, I believe they were PT Cruisers convertibles. Welcome to Going In Tight.
Coming out loose.
We did it, boys.
Welcome back, everybody, to Going In Tight, Coming Out Loose. This is Chris Gibson, your host, and with me, as always, is Bart Lewis. How's it going, Bart?
Oh, pretty good. I'm ready to talk a lot. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing all right. We had the Daytona race this past weekend, the end of the regular season. Congratulations to you, first of all, on winning our fantasy league. I just wanted to say that up front. Are you excited?
Yeah. I think I was like 900th in the nation.
Yeah. So
Got
stayed
some-
in the top 1,000.
Got some green from it.
Yeah, your pocketbook is a little bit fatter.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
I was really happy.
Cool.
That just added to the excitement of the night.
Yeah, it was definitely an exciting race. So we want to rant and we want to rave. We've got a lot to talk about. Bart, what do you have to rave about from the Daytona race?
First of all, I have to say that was the most exciting race of the year. First of all, I wake up in the morning on Saturday and it feels like Christmas because I love Daytona night race more than any other race on the circuit. The fact that they made it the last race of the regular season just amplified the excitement that I have because there are drivers on the bubble and there is no way to have any kind of strategy where you say that driver's a shoe-in because you don't know what's going to happen. One person makes a mistake or, as Ryan Newman says, runs out of talent, and the whole field has changed. Just the entire race itself, I just want to rave about. It was so good. Every piece of it, the end of it, I mean, I yelled, I laughed, I probably cried, I don't know. I couldn't go to sleep at night. I mean, it was just such a good race. Really excited to see William Byron get his first win. I hate to see Jimmy get kicked out, but, I mean, he's a class act the way he went out. And then Chase got second. And I won fantasy. So, I mean, I was just on a high that you couldn't take me off of. How about you?
The cool thing about it was, since you were down at the lake and didn't have much service, is I talked to one of our buddies the whole time who's not a big race guy. And we were engaged from the start of the race all the way till the end of it. So that was really cool to be able to see some of those guys that haven't been into racing start really getting into it. And then kind of towards the end of the regular season, have this awesome race and see that everybody's super pumped about it. So it was clearly a fun race. My rave is Jimmy Johnson. What a class act. When you look at what a champion should act like, when you look at what a role model athlete should be, it is definitely Jimmy Johnson. The first thing after he had his one final time ended in dramatic fashion, he didn't make the playoffs, so he's not going to be vying for another championship. He could have easily been sour. He could have been upset because he had been driving an incredible race the whole time and then gets knocked out of the playoffs. He gets out of the car and the first thing he says is, I've got to take this opportunity to congratulate William Byron, a young kid who he has mentored as he's come to Hendrick Motorsports, and he is trying to build up somebody else when he is at a point where he could easily be broken down and pissed off. Secondly, the next thing that you see from him on camera is him walking into victory lane to congratulate William Byron's team and his former crew chief. You know, there are so many things where he could have been upset about it. And we've seen other drivers, and I'm not going to bring them into it, but we've seen other drivers get upset at former crew chiefs. We've seen other drivers win and get mad or lose and get mad. We saw it from 5 or 6 drivers because a rookie made a very tough move that didn't pan out the way he thought it was going to. We saw a bunch of people get upset, and Jimmy Johnson was kind of the victim of some craziness as well. And he just personified class the whole time. I just have to rave about how awesome it was to see him driving well and to see him perform so well at Daytona. And then it makes me proud to be a fan of him because of the way he acted after he got out of the car. to not stymie that positivity, I'm going to stay away from a rant. I was excited about the race. I don't have much to rant about. And if I do have something to rant about, I'm sure you can cover it for me.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't really have much of a rant. I guess if I was going to pull anything out of my hat, it's just the issues that did arise over the weekend that everybody just has their own opinion on of whose fault it was and whose fault it wasn't. So you had the Calic Racing deal in the Xfinity race. So Ross Chastain got back to the Allmendinger, and Justin Haley won the race. I mean, the drivers, they were just like kind of cool about it, but also they're racing. You're not a team in the last 10 laps, or so the kind of the rough rules are.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because, and I think Allmendinger showed some class in being the oldest guy of that group. They were giving him crap the whole time on the radio for being the grandpa of the group. But I thought he showed some class in saying, Ross is racing to get a win. He's trying to win a championship, try and better his championship hopes. Ultimately, I think it was just hard racing at Daytona. Ross didn't lift on one of his teammates and ran straight through him.
But I don't fault him. I don't fault him for that. I mean, that's what you should be doing as a race car driver. You should be trying to win the race in the last lap, especially when you're running points for it.
100%.
And then also you had the Joey and Denny Hamlin. So Joey was like straight up Stenhouse Jr. this race. Like, he is all over the place, making crazy moves, being really reckless and aggressive. But at the end of the day, I think really, and people disagree with me, and we're not.
You can say it's me. You can say it's me.
Mainly you. That Denny got into Joey, and that's where he cut a tire, and that's how that whole wreck got caused. But I'm not taking away from the fact that Joey was all over the place being crazy. And then you had Tyler Reddick. So Tyler Reddick got to the front. He cut off Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch got into the back of him, and then that just a domino effect happened. And that's where Ryan Newman came in being really upset, as he should be, in a place where he usually wrecks out. This time it wasn't as bad as it was earlier this year. But at the end of the day, Tyler Reddick, he owned his mistake. He owned the rookie that he is, and that, he was just trying to keep the lead, and he made a mistake. So unfortunately, that caused the end of the race for a lot of drivers, as did the other wreck and the other big one too. But so I don't really have a rant, but I'm just saying everybody kind of picks a side when that comes, and I don't know. I see it on both sides, but I always have an opinion, I guess. So it's not a rant.
Yeah, the Reddick thing, I really respected the way that Reddick handled that. You see drivers that are much his senior and veterans in the sport not come out and own a mistake, but he owned up to it immediately on the radio, and I think that allowed him to move forward and still compete in the race and not allow it to affect him. So veteran move there, but overall, an awesome race. We did get some news. Custer got Rookie of the Year. What do you think about that?
Well, that's what I was going to add, is that Tyler Reddick had a pretty impressive year, and he was just going for that win because he wasn't going to be considered as Rookie of the Year nor make the playoffs if he didn't win. So that's why he was aggressive. And if I was to look at consistency throughout the year, I would say that Tyler Reddick had a better year and did perform better than the rest of the rookie class. I don't know, Quinn Huff gave him a run for their money, but at the end of the day, I'm not upset. He won the race. That's not easy to do. Any Cup driver that's been in there for 10 years will say that the reason why this is so competitive because it's not easy to win one of these things. So when you do, it means a lot. So to have Custer win at Kentucky in his rookie season, that shows that he's going to be in the sport for a long time, and he's definitely worthy of that title. True or false? It is everybody's favorite time of the week. It is time for some true false. It's time to make Chris look smart or dumb. We're not sure. What do you think, Chris?
Well, it seems like my average is around like a 50%. So more dumb. Let's do it.
I have no room to talk. I'm at 40%. I think that's why I never wanted to do this, because now I know how much it hurts. So I'm sorry, Chris, but let's do this. So this week, our theme is NASCAR Circuit Edition. And the reason why that is the theme tonight. Is we're talking about IROC later on, so we'll get to that. But there is a ton of NASCAR series. It's not just Cup. It's not just Xfinity, Gander, RV, and Outdoor Truck Series, or ARCA. There's 14 active series currently. There's 28 series that have ever ran, so a lot of defunct series. So let's just see if Chris can tell which ones are true and which ones are false. So let's get started. Number 1, softball to you, I hope. The Willen Modified Tour. Is this true or false?
That is true.
That is true. Good job. Softball right to Chris. So that is a modified stock car, open-wheeled with a closed cockpit. And it has been around since the beginning of NASCAR. I did not know that.
I did not know that either, but you hear a lot of those, like the young guys coming up through the wheel and modified division. So, yeah, I knew it was there. Don't know much about it, though.
Yeah, 17 races each year. Ryan Preece was like a rock star. He's the rock star of wheel and modified tour. All right, number 2, Monoposto Racing Series. Is that a NASCAR circuit?
Monoposto?
Monoposto, Monoposto. Lots of O's.
I don't think so. False.
That is correct. It is false. This is actually part of the Formula Series.
Yeah.
And it's similar to how we have IndyCar here. That's kind of like F1, but
Okay.
it's the United Kingdom's IndyCar or F1 series. So
Monaco.
Monoposto. That's surely how they say it over there. All right, good job. You're 2 for 2. Let's go to number 3, Ignite Series. True or false?
True.
It's true. Yeah. This isn't. Wait, do you know what it is, first of all?
No, I know that it's a series. I do not know exactly what it is. I'm not even going to attempt. That's not part of this game. I have to answer true or false. You give people the facts.
All right, I'll give you the facts. It started this year, and it's not actually real racing. It's iRacing. So Ignite Series, this started this year, and it is the NASCAR Circuit Series. All right, number 4, moving on. Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. True or false?
Ooh, Lucas Oil. They're involved in so much in sports. True.
False.
Oh!
It is not. This is sanctioned by Lucas Oil themselves and has been running modifieds on dirt since 2005. Actually, Kyle Larson just won a race in this format, and his second career start in the series.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's a solid dirt track racer, though.
Dude is tearing it up this year. All right, here we go. Number 5, the Pinty Series. True or false? It could be Pinty. Pinty. Is it Pinty?
Yeah, it's Pinty because it's
all right,
true.
Well, you know so much. Tell me. Oh, it's true. All right. Yeah, you are right. It is true, a.k.a. the Canadian NASCAR. Sorry about it. About it. It started in 1986, and they run 13 races annually, all in Canada besides one in U.S. at Loudon in New Hampshire. Yeah, so you are 4 for 5, my friend. Here we go. This might be the best you've ever done. Don't ruin it now. Let's see that confidence building up.
You just jinx me.
All right, number 6, FedEx Challenge Series. Is this true or false?
False.
It is true.
What?
Yeah, it's true.
Oh my gosh.
And this one has a lot of names, so it could be misleading, but I make the rules here. It's also called the Peak Mexico Series, and also at some point, or maybe even currently, it's called the Corona Series, which is wildly inappropriate given the virus that we are all plagued with. But this is Mexico's NASCAR. So Canada has NASCAR and Mexico has NASCAR. And this one, they started in 2004. It doesn't seem as successful. They had a brief hiatus in 2017, I believe. But yeah, basically Mexico's version of NASCAR, stock cars.
I know. So just from our Instagram following, we follow a couple of the NASCAR Mexico accounts, and there is a girl that apparently tears it up down there. I do not know her name. I will not attempt to remember it, but there are apparently quite a few promising racers down there. And I think Daniel Suarez came from that program as well.
And yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the girl, we call her Haley Deegan of the South, I believe. We'll go with that.
Yeah, that's what we'll do.
All right. Number 7, the World of Outlaws. Is that a NASCAR sanctioned series? True or false?
See, you wanted me to spit it out really quick there. I could see.
Mm-hmm.
False.
That is false. You're right.
Yes.
Yeah, that started in
And-
1978, and its sprint and late model series ran
Yep.
by the World Racing Group, not affiliated with NASCAR.
Okay, good. I almost said true real quick there.
I know you did. All right, number 8, the convertible division. True or false?
The convertible division.
Yep.
So what is this, like a bunch of soccer moms racing Volkswagen Beetles with a drop top?
No, I believe they were PT Cruisers convertibles. In Target parking lots.
True.
It is true.
Yeah, you were pushing it too far there for me to, but you were trying to get false into my head.
I think you snuck a peek at this outline before.
No, I did not. I did not.
All right, yeah, that is true. And it's exactly what it was. For 4 years in the 50s, NASCAR had stock car racing convertibles. So, yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, that was the thing.
Cool.
Yeah, it didn't last very long, but I'm sure that was terrifying for people.
Close-wheeled open cockpit racing. They're
Yeah.
like totally flipping Formula One on its head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, how can we quickly kill people? Let's put everyone in a convertible and put them at 200 miles an hour. All right, number 9, the Ice Racing Series.
The
True or
ice.
false?
False?
God, it is false. I don't know how you're getting all these right.
That just doesn't even make sense. What does ICE stand for?
So you think ice stands for something, or were they actually racing on ice?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know what I thought. Are they racing? Is it ice racing?
Well, give it a go. What do you think?
Ice racing.
You think it was on ice?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on ice. Yeah. Yeah, motorcycle racing on ice. It's currently active, and it started back in the 60s. So this is still a thing.
And
Motorcycle racing.
NASCAR sanctions that?
No, it's false. Didn't you say false?
Oh, false. I did say false.
Good God.
We're going off the rails, folks. We're going off the rails. Good thing there's only one question left. So
Yeah.
motorcycle racing on ice. I knew that was a thing. I have seen that live.
I had never heard of that. Number 10, let's do it. Last one, I should have made this harder, but the Pro Invitational Series, is it true or is it false?
True.
It's true. It is true. We
Yeah,
watched
that
it
was the
earlier this year.
iRacing.
Yeah, it was on Fox when the pandemic happened. We're all racing electronically via iRacing. And that was what it was called. It's now defunct. Online, it says defunct. It's not currently active.
Defunct.
Yeah. Just very aggressive, but
Nothing
yeah,
but defunct.
there's no hope for it. It's over.
Well, that's probably because they did that Pro Invitational Series when they were trying to give Cup drivers something to do. That's where Clint Boyer drank like 16 tall boys a Busch Light while he was driving in the Pro Invitational Series. But then you said there's that Ignite Series. So,
Yeah, that's the one I didn't really look into a whole lot. I just know it started this year.
okay.
D is for degrees, so you did better than that. So you move on to next week where I try to stump you again. True or false? This week we're talking about IROC, the International Race of Champions. This is a cool series that no longer exists, and we want to talk about it. So what was IROC? IROC was not a sanctioned NASCAR series. So we just talked about all these series that were sanctioned. It was not. It was created by Les Richter, Mike Phelps, and Roger Penske. So these three guys got together and say, how cool would it be if we could have all the best of the best in all series? So NASCAR, F1, IndyCar, sport car racing, IMSA, and just put them all on one track, 12 of them, in identically prepared cars and see who has the best skill. It's not about who has the best team or who has the most money to go out and test everything. It was truly built on skill. So let's talk about this. What do you think about this, Chris? Why on earth does this not exist to this day?
The only reason I can think it doesn't exist is because it's a logistical nightmare. The series that we have people racing from in this thing are F1. We've got sport car divisions like IMSA, IndyCar. You've got the Australian racing, off-road racing. People were coming from everywhere to race in this race of champions. So it was primarily dominated. If you look through the champions and who has won it, it's primarily dominated by NASCAR guys, because what they would do is they would take those cars and they would put them on an oval track and they were racing. So it was something that was fairly familiar to a NASCAR driver or an IndyCar driver. There were some other guys who won it, but it was dominated by those NASCAR champions. And I think it's something that would be awesome to see it today. You've got guys like, I mean, how cool would it be? Could you imagine watching a Lewis Hamilton and a Jimmy Johnson and a Joseph Newgarden duke it out in the exact same car, no money associated with it, nothing other than I can outdrive you on this course? So, I think it probably petered out because of the logistics and also that oval thing. I think it's hard to get a guy like a Formula One driver to come and say, oh, race against a NASCAR guy on an oval 100% of the time. So what do you think? Why do you think it's not around today? Because it seems like automatic money in the bag.
Yeah, so it lasted from 1974 to 2006. 2006 was around the time of the recession and around the time NASCAR started having troubles with fan attendance and sponsorship issues,
right?
Just as the whole country was struggling. So they lost the sponsorship in 2006 to Crown Royal, and so they were unable to get another sponsor the next year. So they took a hiatus with the goal to come back in 2008, and that never happened. So it just was defunct and just stopped running. But I completely agree that the big negative of this is that they ran on mostly NASCAR ovals. There was a few different tracks on the list of the circuit that you didn't see in the NASCAR circuit. But ultimately, all these NASCAR guys had the upper hand. I mean, when you look at the championships, it was mostly dominated by the guys you see in NASCAR Cup championships. Like you got Bobby, Davey Allison, Cale Yarborough, Harry Gant, Jeff Bodine, Terry and Bobby Labonte, Rusty Wallace, Ricky Rudd, Mark Martin, Dale Earnhardt, Kurt Busch, Matt Kenseth, Kevin Harvick, and Tony Stewart. I heard that giggle. But, I mean, you're talking like NASCAR royalty right there. They all went out and said, you know what, I'm going to prove that I'm the best of the best in IROC. And it was awesome to see that they all participated in something that wasn't NASCAR related, just in the spirit of competition. But at the end of the day, I think if you were trying to do this in today's landscape, I don't know that all the teams are so happy, at least not all of them, with drivers double dipping into different series, just because you run the risk of getting hurt, injured.
Right.
And we need you here. We have sponsorship dollars riding on you. We have a whole team rallying around you building cars. And if you're out there having fun or duking it out in a different series, your focus is not 100% on us. And so I don't know how that would look in today's landscape as far as taking drivers who are currently active in different series and say, hey, let's make another IROC.
Well, I think it would be something that would be cool. Like you said, that's the logistical nightmare from the business side of things. The other part is these series that people were being pulled from are all over the world. So that's another tough thing. One thing that you and I had discussed earlier on when we first started this podcast was what could NASCAR do to adapt some of the features of other series like an F1. And one thought that I had come up with is take NASCAR somewhere else just for one race. And I think this would provide a good opportunity to get guys from all of these different series in front of another crowd. I would like to see, I don't need it to be a full race schedule, 12 or 13. I think it would be cool to have 5 races that is just like the NASCAR Champions Tour or the Racing Champions Tour, where you go to a Bahrain and then go from there and race at a place like Daytona, and then go to Australia and race on some of the unique courses that they have there. I think it would be cool to do 5 or 6 races where you just have these champions, where it's not a whole new series, it's not a whole new piece that the drivers are going to, but it would allow each and every one of these sports to grow their following exponentially, and it would allow us to see the best of the best. I mean, everybody wonders, we see it all the time on Twitter, is Lewis Hamilton the best, or is a Jimmy Johnson the best? Or, you know, you've got two guys that have won all these championships. Who's the best driver? Put them in the same car, let them run in Bahrain, let them run on Daytona. If somebody wins both of them, good for you. If somebody wins one or the other, then it's like, hey, well, that's what happens.
That's an interesting point. So do you think that NASCAR should take the lead on this, that they would actually get that together and make that happen?
I think it's something that would allow NASCAR to extend its reach. You and I, as much as we want to talk about other racing series, you and I are NASCAR guys. So we're looking at how to grow this sport. I think that the more that NASCAR can do to reach out a hand and bring other people in, we've already seen a culture shift this year that is working out for the better. I think the more that they reach out and they say, hey, let's take the lead, let's put together a race of champions, and ultimately it's going to have to be a partnership. But I think NASCAR has a unique position and a unique enough power to reach out to an F1, to an IndyCar, and bring people in to all these sports car series that are out there and say, let's bring champions together and give every race fan on every corner of the planet something that they'd want to see.
Yeah, another hiccup there is something that we're not really talking about here that we didn't bring up, but Pontiac was the manufacturer of this for 11 years, so 96 to 2006. They ended production of Pontiac in 2009. So even if they kept going with IROC, they would have had to change manufacturers. So throughout the history, they had Chevy Camaro was a long-time manufacturer of the series for 12 years on two different stints. Porsche was a manufacturer for 1 year, Dodge Avenger and Dodge Daytona. So a mix of different manufacturers. Ford's really the only one that didn't make this list. I did, Chris, thumbs down talking about Ford. But what does that look like now? I can't even really imagine what it looked like then when you have a guy who's in Team Chevy running Chevys every week, and then you're going to go out and run a Pontiac, which in those days it wasn't owned by GM. So that'd be interesting to see what the manufacturer would look like, what different drivers would be open to running that, or even just not even running a manufacturer and saying these are 12 identically prepared cars and they're cars. And you don't know who developed the engine. It's just a white label. We have a team and they all develop these cars the same way. So go out in there and do your best to show your ability and win.
Yeah, it's definitely a catch-22 because that was one of the things that we found from when they ran the bounty earlier this year. Everybody was like, send them down there, put them in Kyle Busch's equipment. And that's one of the things that was like, you can't send Chase Elliott down and put him in Toyota equipment and him run for KBM. So I think that's probably one of the things too, as it's becoming more prevalent both in NASCAR and in F1 that you are tied to a manufacturer. Even a team in F1 like a Red Bull is heavily tied to who's manufacturing that engine.
But what if I told you this is coming back? It's not called IROC, but there is a new series coming out, and it's been around in the news, talked about. But Tony Stewart, Ray Evernham, so a longtime crew chief for Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, obviously Hall of Famer there, and owner of Suter Haas. They're developing the SRX All-Stars series, which will be 6 short track races starting this next summer, 2021 on CBS. So they're taking drivers not currently active in series, but drivers who still want to race and still feel as though they are competitive and want to go out and do something, but they don't necessarily want to commit to racing a giant 30-plus race season with a different series. So we're looking at race car drivers like Scott Dixon, who is actually currently active, Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, Juan Pablo Montoya, and Paul Tracy. These are like the best of the best, and we're all going to see them duke it out on some short track races. So the potential tracks that we're going to see is Stafford Motor Speedway, Pensacola Speedway, New Smyrna, Eldora, Knoxville Raceway, and Terre Haute Action Track. So I think this is brilliant. You're taking some of the best, mostly retired, some current drivers, and you're putting them out on short tracks, which is like everybody's craving to see more of. You're putting it in primetime CBS lineup, and you're limiting how long it's going to be. There's no complex rule system. I'm speculating, but I'm assuming that there's not going to be the degree of what NASCAR rules are or F1 rules are. It's just simply 90 minutes. There's no pit stops, and there's just a halftime in the middle for adjustments. Like, that's awesome. What do you think about this?
This came out. This is something that got released during COVID, and I think they were able to fine tune it to see, and I think they learned from what they've seen in COVID. People are loving the amount of racing that we're getting, no matter whether it's a weekend like we had at Daytona this past weekend, where there was racing across all different series, or whether it's some of these double header weekends. People like when you sit down to the race and you get racing A to Z, and there's no funny business in the middle of it. Tony Stewart is steeped in NASCAR. He has long been a proponent of, we need to change things up. We need to get more short tracks, road courses, things like that in the schedule. These are two well-connected guys. So I'm not surprised that they were able to pull this off, but I do think it's going to be awesome just to see, like you said, people get together, put the same cars on the track. Let's see guys who are solid racers duke it out and display their ability. Well, everybody, we don't have any regular season updates for you tonight, but that is because we are moving into playoff time. We have Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex, Ryan Blaney, Alex Bowman, William Byron, who secured a playoff spot with a win this past weekend at Daytona, Austin Dillon, Cole Custer, Eric Almirola, Clint Bowyer, Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, and Matt DiBenedetto, who have made the 2020 playoffs and will be chasing a championship this year. So, Bart, after a feisty race at Daytona, who do you think, as we go into this first race at Darlington this coming weekend, we've got a few races before we reach the cut. We will lose 4 drivers moving into the round of 12. Who do you think is going to be cut in the first 4 out?
So I think the first 4 out is relatively easy to guess in my mind. We got some difficult tracks here. We've got Darlington, which really is a track that most rookies and even drivers that have been in this circuit for a couple of years struggle at, because it is so different and you only race it once a year. You got Richmond, and then you also got Bristol, a short track. So based on that, I'm saying the first 4 to go are Austin Dillon, Cole Custer, William Byron, and shocker, Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch has not had this. Yeah, Kyle Busch has had a terrible season, and most of what I'm seeing here lately is just the cookie continuing to crumble, and I think it's just not his year. So I'm going to call the shock factor there that Kyle Busch doesn't make it on to the top 8. What do you think?
Well, so my first 2 are the same. I have Austin Dillon and Cole Custer both not making it. I think Cole Custer, while he's had a great rookie season, I think he lucked into getting into the playoffs. If he hadn't won, he'd have been kind of down there in the crappy part of the points. So Austin Dillon, Cole Custer out. And then I have Matt DiBenedetto and Kurt Busch falling out. Matt DiBenedetto was Mr. Consistent over the beginning of the season, and barring a few wrecks and him avoiding a big wreck at Daytona, I do not think he would have even made the playoffs. So I see Matt DiBenedetto getting knocked out. I see Kurt Busch getting knocked out. They've just both been recently on this up and down climb, and both had an opportunity early in the season to lock themselves into solid playoff standing. I just don't see them collecting enough playoff points to keep the likes of a Kyle Busch out. I like what you said about Kyle Busch. I would love to see Kyle Busch fall out of the first round of the playoffs. I just think that something's going to tick in his head. Something's going to happen with this team to where they are able to make it to the front of the pack at some of these races and collect enough points to make it to the round of 12.
Yeah, the Bush brothers are really good at Bristol, so you could see something happen there. Also, Matty D is good at Bristol. I really think, and I stand behind this, that I said earlier this year that Matty D would win his first race with the Wood brothers, 100th win for the Wood brothers this year, and I still think that's going to happen. So I think that he's going to pull that off at some point before the end of the year. Why not in the next 3 races?
What type of fantasy advice do you have for the masses this weekend? Like we said earlier, you are in the top 1,000. You are in the upper echelon of fantasy folks. Not to make your head any bigger than it already is after you have this win.
Yeah.
Give us your fantasy advice for the Southern 500.
So first of all, for those who have not played this before through the entire season, or even those who have, Chris and I are just learning the new rules this year, is that it isn't like it was last year, which I believe was like picking so many playoff drivers and then picking so many non-playoff drivers, which isn't the rules this year. All the uses reset. So before, at the beginning of the year, Daytona 500, you had 10 uses of each driver. Now, through the playoffs, you have 10 races. You have 5 uses of each driver through Phoenix of this year. Looking at who you should go off of, I was looking at, picking a couple. I didn't even know the rules has changed. So I was looking at a couple playoff drivers, a couple non-playoff drivers. Still, I think good picks and good advice. So what I'm going to say is when you're looking at playoff drivers, you should look at Harvick and Hamlin. Big surprises there. They're dominating. They're really good at this track. They're veterans. They've got it figured out. They're dialed in. So they have a good chance to be in the top 5, even win the race. I think also Kyle Busch, going against what I said earlier about him getting out, he's also really good at this track. And I'm a little bit on Chris's side, as I think that he'll have a spark in his eye and say, I am not losing the playoffs, especially in the top 16. So I think he'll get his act together, pull something out. So this could very well be the track to do it on. And then also I think Brad Keselowski has a very good track record at Darlington. So he has a very good chance to win or get a top 5. So all equal chances for those drivers to put into your lineup. Now you have five more uses of them. I was out of all of them, so now you get to use them again. And then if you're looking at non-playoff drivers, which doesn't really matter now, but just a few other drivers that you can look at if you're talking strategy to make it to the end of the year and not use all the good guys in the playoffs, you're going to look at Eric Jones. Eric Jones is very good at Darlington. He has won here before. Jimmy Johnson is very good at Darlington. And if you're looking real deep, you're going to go with Chris Buescher and John Hunter Nemechek. Those are also 2 dark horses to put in your lineup.
This is going to present a pretty unique fantasy playoff format, and it's going to make it tough on picking drivers. So
yeah, before it was unlimited. So you had 2 playoff picks or 3 playoff picks or something like that, and then 2 non-playoff drivers. And you could use whoever you wanted every single race. There was unlimited uses. So this is completely changing the game. This is really going to be hard for most people.
And I apologize to those of you who listen to the podcast who decided to spend the money and play with us, and I told you last year's rules. So, you've spent the money. It's gone. Bart, what kind of updates do we have for silly season? I know we've had a couple guys secure a seat for next year or the next couple of years. Has anything crazy happened that you've seen when it comes to silly season? Let's get a little bit silly before we end the evening.
Sure. Yeah, let's get silly. So Eric Almirola, he extended his contract, which I think was well-deserved this year based on his performance. And then also William Byron. You win a race, you get to talk extending your contract. So I think that is also worthy for him. And also generally when you see a driver win his first race, it's like a fire ignites and he broke through that barricade of, I can't do this. This is really hard to do. And they just knock off more wins right and left right after that happens. So you could very, very well see William Byron start to be a lead contender in the series.
Right.
But then we got some true silliness. So we got Denny and the Richard Petty Motorsport speculation. Bob Pockrass asked him on a conference call or Zoom call, whatever they were doing here recently, about what it is that was going on with that. And he couldn't provide any information. He left it vague. So it does seem like he does have his hand in there. And he is trying to make something work, but we don't know what it is yet. So well, I guess we had to stay tuned for that. And then we got some other craziness. NASCAR Twitter is just like blowing people's minds. Everybody who likes NASCAR who's on Twitter has become a private investigator.
Oh yeah, for
out
sure.
of nowhere. So you've got, first of all, let's talk about one that happened, I believe, last week. It was Noah Gragson, and he tweeted a pen emoji. So what do you know about this, Chris?
Yeah, so Noah tweets out that he tweets the pin emoji and big announcement in 15 minutes. The world freaking takes this and runs with it. And in typical 2020 journalistic fashion, everybody comes up with their own story on exactly what is happening. So there was rumors for a minute that he was going to be jumping into the 48 car, and that the big announcement was going to be that Hendrick's bringing him over. There were so many different things coming out about what this pin emoji meant. It ended up being him re-signing with the team that he's currently with, and that he's going to be there next year, which is pretty typical. If a Xfinity driver is not going to be moving up, somebody who's had success like Noah Gragson has, his team's going to keep him around to compete for an Xfinity championship. I thought it was genius on his part. It definitely got his name in the news. People were losing their minds.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you look at Noah Gragson, and he is a team owner's dream. Not only does he show promise in his winning races, but he is also hilarious, and he knows how to cause a stir. And that's exactly what you want to do when you're a sponsor and you want to increase visibility. He is a sponsorship dream, in my opinion. So hats off to Noah Gragson. He's very well-rounded when it comes to a NASCAR driver. But we also have even more of a blowing your mind sort of thing going on Twitter right now. Somehow, because of the fact that Austin Cindric merchandise is not currently available, everyone has determined that Austin Cindric is no longer a driver for Penske Ford in the Xfinity division. That is, first of all, I don't know who's poking around trying to buy Austin Cindric merchandise, but apparently everyone is, because it turns out he is not going anywhere. They are simply sold out of Austin Cindric merchandise. They're not available.
Yeah, it's that, that is one of those things, like, teachers used to tell us before they were censored so much when we were kids, don't assume because you'll make an ass out of you and me. And that is what happened to a lot of people today. For you to not be able to buy a t-shirt and thinking that one of the most successful drivers has lost his ride with a top team, that doesn't make much sense to me. That is the definition of silly season. That is why silly season is called silly season, is because goofy stuff like a pin emoji, like somebody not being able to buy a t-shirt, is going to shake up the whole industry and send it into a tailspin on what could possibly happen.
And the good news is that we have 10 more races to see more silliness that comes out. Even after the season ends, we're going to see some silliness. So we're in for a treat. I promise you that.
That is all we have for you all this week. We thank you for tuning in to the 13th episode of Going In Tight, Coming Out Loose. As always, you can follow us on Apple, Spotify, and any major podcasting platform. We appreciate it when you all go and rate and review our podcast on Apple. You can follow us on Spotify. We would not be here without you all doing that for us. You all can find us also on goingintightpodcast.com. That's where you'll find our fantasy forecast. That's where you'll find articles that we're posting about some of the other NASCAR happenings throughout the week. Until next time, this is Bart and Chris. See you next week.